Hey guys, I wanted to take a few minutes today to tell you a little bit of an update on what's been going on with some labs we've started over the last month. One of those labs was the salt evaporation lab from the Salty Lakes episode, Salty Lakes 929, Asynchronous School 929. We were learning about the salty lakes on Mars and Earth. We added water to salt, making a supersaturated salt solution. Supersaturated means that the solution has dissolved things to the point that it can't dissolve anymore. There's no more space for more pieces to fall apart. So this had all the salt that it could possibly dissolve and then some. Here's a lab you can try at home. A tray or a cup, put some water in it. Add salt to it. Mix it up so that it is dissolved. It created what's called a brine solution, and a brine solution is the type of water that we have on Mars that's liquid, but it is so salty, it's not like water that we have on Earth, and very few things can live in that type of salty environment. I put some toys and rocks in my brine solution and left it in the sun for a few days. Watch what happened as the water molecules got excited, evaporated, went up into the atmosphere, but they left behind the pieces of salt. The sodium and the chlorine that were separated came back together and formed new crystals, and those new crystals were actually pretty big. They absorbed thermal energy from the sunlight and evaporated into water vapor, releasing that thermal energy into the atmosphere. You can see all those crystals, salt crystals. Next were the animal shells from Martian Polymers episode 928. We were learning about the building materials for different living things. I put two examples of this in vinegar, which is acetic acid mostly. We put a crab shell in and we put an eggshell in. The eggshell is mostly calcium carbonate and the crab shell is mostly chitin. So now the calcium carbonate and the chitin have dissolved from the shell and are in the vinegar solution. They are floppy and not so protective anymore. Finally, there's the Sphinx moth episode 924. After a few days I came back and tried looking for the hornworms and I couldn't find more than one. I only found one. The other guy, I don't know. Maybe he dug down into the soil, because remember, these don't make chrysalises hanging from leaves. They actually dig down into the soil to make their chrysalis. Maybe he got eaten by a bird. I took the other one off the plant and put him in a container. I gave him fresh leaves every day and a wet paper towel to keep the place humid. He shouldn't dry out. That's important. He doesn't drink water that comes from the leaves he eats, but he doesn't drink water. He gets the water that he needs from the leaves that he eats. I cleaned out his tray every day, and man, he poops a lot. Caterpillar poop is called frass. Then one day he looked different. I was worried he was sick. His skin wasn't as bright green as it used to be. It was actually kind of brownish, yellowish, and transparent. And I could see his heart pumping through the skin on his back, and he wasn't eating. These changes were indications that he's actually ready to pupate. That means he's ready to start making that chrysalis. If you remember, the Sphinx moth doesn't build a chrysalis hanging upside down on a plant. He digs in the dirt. So I put a container of dirt and dead leaves in a habitat, and after a minute he started exploring and then digging. He's not a very good digger. Pretty clumsy. I got tired of watching. Took a long time with little progress. But by the next morning he was nowhere to be found. I mean, the cage was closed, so I know he didn't get out. There's nowhere to go but inside the dirt, so he must be in there. I'm sure he's in here somewhere, and in 2 weeks he should emerge as the Sphinx moth. I'll let you know how that goes.